So this is a very iconic chapter in the Old Testament. The Israelites are now in the Promised Land, and it's time to take possession of the Promised Land. And so now they are going to be attacking the city of Jericho, and the Lord is going to help them out and do all the real heavy lifting for them. The Book of Joshua 6:1. Now Jericho, a fenced town with high walls, was tightly closed because of the Israelites. No one went out or came in. So Jericho is a very large and powerful city, and they have very strong fortifications. The Israelites sent in spies several days ago, and they scouted out the city, and they made a daring escape with the help of Rahab. The city was locked down to prevent their escape, so perhaps it is still locked down from that event because that wasn't very long ago. Or perhaps they have their own scouts and they see the Israelites getting closer to them. Either way, it doesn't matter. The city's in lockdown, and they are preparing for war against the Israelites. If the Israelites come and attack them, they're going to be in a position where they can defend themselves. Of course, the strategy that Israel is going to use is one that is very unique and unexpected, that I don't think anybody could prepare for. The Book of Joshua 6:2. And the Lord said to Joshua, See, I have given Jericho, its king and mighty men of valor into your hands. So before the battle starts, before anybody lifts their weapon up, God has already declared the victory of the Israelites, that these people here, from the king to the mighty men, they are all going to be delivered into the hand of Joshua. The Book of Joshua 6:3. You shall march around the enclosure, all the men of war going around the city once. This you shall do for 6 days. So here is the master strategy. And as far as I know, no one has ever repeated this strategy when it comes to besieging a large fortified city. But it is what God commands for them to do in this particular instance. It may not make any sense to us, but it's not for us to make sense of things, but to have obedience to the Lord. And that is what we have going on here. Even though the instructions are ridiculous, faith in the Lord is rewarded. Obedience to the Lord is rewarded. They are His people, and He can do with them what He wants. This is also multi-level. We have Joshua trusting in the Lord, and then we have the Israelites. They're trusting in the Lord, but they're also trusting in Joshua. He is the one leading them. They saw this miracle a few days ago when they crossed the river. They had the river dry up, and they were able to just walk across it. So they have seen miracles that the Lord can do, and they know that Joshua here is His guy, His representative, the one that is leading them. The Book of Joshua 6:4. And 7 priests shall bear before the ark 7 trumpets of ram's horns, and on the 7th day you shall march around the enclosure 7 times, and the priest shall blow the trumpets. So the warriors of Israel were to march around the city of Jericho. They couldn't be too close to it or they would be hit with projectile weapons. They would have had stones thrown at them or arrows loosed their way, so they had to be a certain distance away to prevent that from happening. And for every day, for 6 days, they made this journey. This was just a single lap around the city. And because of the distance they were away from it, it probably took a fair amount of time for this to happen. And every day, the people in the city saw this. It's hard to say what they thought or what they believed was going on. They were probably waiting for them to just come and attack them. They were just on bated breath, not knowing what would happen next. Waiting for the attack, but not seeing it arrive. It probably became a little bit of a routine to them. Oh, they're at it again. So now we are at the final day, the 7th day, and this is where things get pretty interesting. We have them lapping the city 7 times. Before it was a once and done, but now they are out there marching around the city 7 times, probably starting fairly early in the morning and continuing to move around. This strikes me as very interesting based on the Sabbath day laws and rules and ordinances, but it appears that this was above that, and it was something that was ordered of them by the Lord, so probably special permissions were granted. We see that it's not just the warriors, that the priests are here as well, and the Ark of the Covenant. And we have the priest leading the Ark, and the priest, they have horns with them, so that they can blow these horns and make a whole lot of noise. But they're not just walking around blowing horns. There is more to this than that. The book of Joshua 6:5. When they make a long blast with the ram's horn, and you hear the sound of the trumpet, all the people shall shout with a great shout, and the wall of the enclosure shall fall down in its place, and the people shall go up over it, every man straight before him. So the people inside the city, the people of Jericho, they're probably going to move themselves to the wall, be atop the wall to look out at the Israelites. And after they've made the journey 7 times, I bet you everybody in the city, or at least all the ones that are fighting men, would be on the wall to watch it. There's probably other people as well. I imagine everybody would want to see what's going on. They're locked in the city. They can't really do a whole lot. There's no entertainment. Business is probably at a standstill. And so everybody's watching the Israelites as they make this journey round and round and round again. And they have no idea what's going on. But then suddenly we have the trumpets being blown and the men yelling or making noise. And then we have the wall collapsing. And if everybody's up on the wall, they're going to be in a very disadvantaged position if they are not killed. And the Israelites are just going to storm into the city. But right now we're looking at the commandment. In a few more verses we'll see the actualization of this and how it actually plays out. The book of Joshua 6:6. So Joshua son of Nun called the priest and said to them, take up the ark of the covenant, and let 7 priests bear 7 trumpets of rams' horns before the ark of the Lord. 6:7. He said to the people, go on, march around the enclosure, and let the armed men pass on before the ark of the Lord. So here we have Joshua, the logistics man, explaining the plan to the people. And we see that some of the details here are explained with additional clarity. We see that the ark and the priests are traveling around on all the days, not just the last day. That could just be a little bit nitpicky, but it is nice that we see both of these. God explaining what to do, and then Joshua explaining to the people what needs to be done. The book of Joshua 6:8. When Joshua had spoken to the people, the 7 priests bearing the 7 trumpets of ram's horns passed on before the Lord, and blew the trumpets, and the ark of the covenant of the Lord followed them. 6:9. The armed men went before the priest, who blew the trumpets, and the rear guard came after the ark, the priest blowing the trumpets as they went. So we see here that it is a full-blown convoy. We have the people ahead, the people in the back, and they are marching, and we have the trumpet being blown. I'm sure the trumpets could be heard from a very large distance away, so that the people in the city, they would hear these trumpets if they were not to gaze out upon them from upon the wall. so that everybody in the area would know that something is going on. The book of Joshua 6:10. But Joshua commanded the people, "You shall not shout or let your voices be heard, nor shall any word proceed out of your mouth until the day I tell you to shout. Then you shall shout." So as the Israelites are marching around the city, they are silent. They're not talking one to another. There's no idle chit-chat. There's no banter. It is complete silence. We saw a little bit of signaling with trumpets to get the people moving, but essentially they're just marching in silence. I don't know what the exact logistical position of the Israelites would have been in relation to the city. So after they did their lap around the city, how far their camp was away from the city, because they probably wanted to continue on with this silence even at a distance so that the people of the city would never really hear them speak, and it would be kind of eerie and mysterious that way. So perhaps the people of Israel, or at least the man-at-arms, they were not speaking to one another even after they did their lap around the city. Or maybe the silence was only while they were marching. It's hard to say. I could see it going either way. I think Israel had around 40,000 troops at this time. So if all of them were silent and they were just marching, I bet you the footsteps were tremendously loud and very rhythmic. And that would be something that would bring dread upon the people of Jericho. The book of Joshua 6:11. So he caused the ark of the Lord to go around the city once, and they came into the camp and lodged in the camp. 6:12. Joshua rose early in the morning, and the priest took up the ark of the Lord. 6:13. And the 7 priests bearing the 7 trumpets of ram's horns before the ark of the Lord passed on, blowing the trumpets continually, and the armed men went before them, and the rear guard came after the ark of the Lord, the priests blowing the trumpets as they went. So here we have a look at the schedule, the day-to-day, and it really does look like they weren't speaking. They didn't have people being sent to and fro to get the people together. They assembled by the sound of the trumpet, starting early in the day. So they were probably a decent distance away, and then they would march around, and then they would come back. The book of Joshua 6:14. On the second day they compassed the city enclosure once and returned to the camp. So they did for 6 days. 6:15. On the 7th day they rose early at daybreak and marched around the city as usual. Only on that day they compassed the city 7 times. So the people of Jericho probably got used to the routine at this point. But now something different is happening. They're going around the city again and again. 7 times they went around the city. The book of Joshua 6:16. And the 7th time, when the priests had blown the trumpets, Joshua said to the people, "Shout, for the Lord has given you the city." Now the silence ends. The horns are blowing, the people are shouting, and Joshua is directing the people. The book of Joshua 6:17. And the city and all that is in it shall be devoted to the Lord for destruction. Only Rahab the harlot and all who are with her in her house shall live, because she hid the messengers whom we sent. So the imagery here, it almost sounds like an action movie, where we have the walls being destroyed after the great event that transpires, and they are charging into the city, and there's a call for total extermination, but not extermination for those that helped the Israelites due to the promise that they made with the spies. Rahab and her family is to be protected. Rahab protected and sheltered the spies from the king of Jericho, and they swore to her that she would be protected if she stayed in her house, and that her house was marked with this scarlet thread. The book of Joshua 6:18. But you keep yourselves from the accursed and devoted things, lest when you have devoted it to destruction, you take the accursed thing and make the camp of Israel accursed and trouble it. Throughout history, looting has been very common. Even to this day, it is quite common. I'm going to really date this video by making references to the war in Ukraine and the Russians taking possession of refrigerators to bring back home. So this is something that still goes on today and has gone on forever. But the things that are tempting the Israelites here are not marvels of technology, but the idols and the things of worship of the people of Jericho. And they are forbidden from taking possession of these things, and especially bringing them back to the camp, because then, like leaven in bread, it would spread, it would permeate, and it would affect more people. So this is strictly forbidden. Also, as we know, God is a jealous God. He doesn't want people worshiping anything other than him, and these are his people. So this is a big no-no. This is against the 10 Commandments, and it is just strictly forbidden. The book of Joshua 6:19. But all the silver and gold and vessels of bronze and iron are consecrated to the Lord. They shall come into the treasury of the Lord. So the immutable objects, when it comes to the facets of possession, they can be cleansed, they can be purified, they can be melted down and made into things that the Lord desires. Perhaps as currency, perhaps as different forms of utility, but they can still be used. Wood or carvings, there is nothing that can be done to them other than destruction. The book of Joshua 6:20. So the people shouted, and the trumpets were blown. When the people heard the sound of the trumpet, they raised a great shout, and Jericho's wall fell down in its place, so that the Israelites went up into the city, every man straight before him, and they took the city. I've heard a lot of people comment on this before, saying that this was probably like an earthquake, that the ground just like shook very tremendously, and then the walls and the things around them kind of collapsed, and then the Israelites basically climbed over the rubble to conquer this city. Maybe that's what happened. Maybe there was some other supernatural force at work that led to the destruction of these walls. Maybe they were hollowed out from the inside and they just kind of collapsed right into themselves with no external debris. Or perhaps it was like a wind or something that hit them and they fell over. Maybe the mortar between the stones disappeared, and then the rocks couldn't maintain their grip one to another and collapsed. There's a lot of different ways that God could have accomplished this, and probably the way in which it actually happened is far more interesting and exciting, because that's often the way the Lord does things. He is definitely a God of style. When we look at the world and in the creation and just how majestic and amazing the world is itself, a God with such a level of creativity surely wouldn't do anything boring. The walls are down and the Israelites are able to proceed forth, entering into the city. The book of Joshua 6:21. Then they utterly destroyed all that was in the city, both men and women, young and old, ox, sheep, and donkey, with the edge of the sword. So we have ourselves a massacre, a genocide here. The Israelites killed everyone, man, woman, child, old, young, as well as the livestock as well, both the clean animals, such as the ox, and the unclean animal, such as the donkey. Total and complete destruction. A lot of people get really worked up and excited about things like this when they transpire. But here in this context, this was 100% necessary. And we're going to see examples later on where the Israelites failed to eliminate their enemies, and their enemies came back. And they came back with a vengeance and led to excessive suffering. The book of Joshua 6:22. But Joshua said to the 2 men who had spied out the land, Go into the harlot's house, and bring out the woman, and all she has, as you swore to her. So the Lord God is a righteous God, and he values things that are righteous and holy. So the oath that these men made here, he is going to hold them accountable to it. Perhaps there was some sort of influence of the Lord on them previously that led to this whole scenario. But due to the oath that was made, this promise made to this woman, this prostitute, Rahab, Joshua here is sending these men to take accountability for the promise that they made, to ensure that she is protected, that she is not destroyed with everything else and everyone else. The book of Joshua 6:23. So the young men, the spies, went in and brought out Rahab, her father and mother, her brethren, and all that she had. And they brought out all her kindred and set them outside the camp of Israel. So the spies were successful. They got Rahab and her family out of the city. They needed to be outside the city because they needed to completely destroy the city, raze it to the ground. The book of Joshua 6:24. And they burned the city with fire, and all that was in it, only the silver, the gold, and the vessels of bronze and iron they put into the treasury of the house of the Lord. 6:25. So Joshua saved Rahab the harlot with her father's household and all that she had. And she lives in Israel even to this day, because she hid the messengers whom Joshua sent to spy out Jericho. So here we have the fallout and the conclusion. They destroy the entire city, and they essentially take Rahab and her family in as refugees, and they got to live with the people of Israel throughout their generations. The book of Joshua 6:26. Then Joshua laid this oath on them, Cursed is the man before the Lord, who rises up and rebuilds this city, Jericho. With the loss of his firstborn shall he lay its foundation, and with the loss of his youngest son shall he set up its gates. So here we have the description of a curse being made to those that try to rebuild the city of Jericho. And we're going to see that this is not just a curse, but a prophecy. And we're going to see some events relating to this idea in 2 Kings. For this curse will be fulfilled. The book of Joshua 6:27. So the Lord was with Joshua, and his fame was in all the land. So the Lord granted them a great victory, and the Lord obviously did all the work here when it came to the subjugation of this city, knocking down the walls so that they could just walk right in there and take possession of it and eliminate those that dwelt within. So the Lord is with Joshua, and due to great military victories like this and other miracles that the Lord has performed, the people around are noticing. And it's going to be interesting to see where they go next when it comes to the subjugation of the land of Canaan.